welcome everyone to today's webinar on Birmingham 2022 Visitor Economy Opportunities. My name is Henrietta Brealey and I'm the Chief Executive of the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, and I'm joined here this morning by Alicia Winfield-O'Hare, who is the Tourism Industry Lead for the West Midlands Growth Company, and I will shortly be joined by David Grady, who's Chief Financial Officer of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games, and we're going to be doing a run through some of the opportunities for businesses on things such as training, the Get Set for the Games programme, getting games ready I should say, on visitor economy staff, and also what we know about visitors to the Games during the 2022 and where we're likely to see key hotspots for visitor economy businesses. I've also got a video from a previous Games host city. We've got a fantastic case study from Anne Ledgerwood, who is the lead for the St Enoch Centre in Glasgow and chair of the Glasgow Retail Association, who shares her perspective on how the Games impacted local businesses. Now, I cannot see the slides, but my colleague Demi will be opening them shortly. There we go. Next slide, please, Demi. So, as you probably are all very well aware, I represent the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, which is a not-for-profit business membership and support organisation that exists to connect, support and grow local businesses across our definition of Greater Birmingham, which you can see up on the screen there, which I'm delighted is going to be hosting a wide range of Games events, of course, centred in Birmingham, but also across Solihull and Cannock Chase too. And on top of that, there's going to be some festival sites that I know David will be talking about around Tamworth, Solihull and Birmingham as well. So there's going to be a lot going on across the city region during those fantastic 11 days of sport that we're just 43 days away from now, but also in the run up to and after through things such as the B2022 Cultural Festival, which is on its way now. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, what do? Well, we're here to help businesses that love local and go global. We help businesses locally grow their profile and find customers, trade and build connections internationally, innovate, keep informed about the latest business opportunities and news, their workforce.
I'm just checking, are you in now?
Yeah, I'm in.
Right, lovely. Phew, thank goodness. Thank you.
You right? Put yourself on mute. So we had a few issues getting David in today, so that was my colleague checking that he'd logged in all right. And then finally, of course, be heard by representing businesses' interests locally and nationally. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Demi. So in terms of what we've been doing around the Commonwealth Games, as you'd expect, an organisation that is intrinsically about business in Greater Birmingham, we've been pretty busy and we've been working across three key areas with Games partners. The first is informing our members. Today is a member-only session where we're looking to keep our members informed about the latest developments, news and views. Engaging Games partners, working collaboratively to bring a business voice and create opportunities for local businesses, and also a bit on going global. In 2018, we founded a Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce division, which is all about helping local businesses find partners, build their understanding, access opportunities in Commonwealth markets around the globe. Next slide, please. And of course, if after today you have any questions that we're unable to answer, or you'd like to find out more about any of that activity, do contact your relationship manager, or you can use the details on the screen there. Next slide, please. But on to today, I'd first like to hand over to David Grady, CFO of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games Organising Committee, who's going to be telling us a little bit about visitors during the Games, the hotspots we're going to see, and a little bit of that intel on what to expect in just 43 days' time. David, you must be an incredibly busy man with their proximity to the Games. Thank you very much for joining us today. Over to you.
Henrietta, thanks very much, and thanks everybody for bearing with me in getting into the call. So I've got a brief slot. I'm going to try and fill you in on all the many things that are happening around sort of the organisation for the huge number of visitors that are coming to the visitor economy. So let me kick off very quickly. Next slide, please. So this is the mission statement of the Games. We did these sort of 3 or 4 years ago. They've very much stood the test of time and COVID, and clearly the visitor economy sort of plays in at least 4 out of those 5 in terms of bringing people together, helping the region to grow and succeed, a catalyst for change. When we talk about that in the context of the visitor economy, it's very much about Birmingham as a destination, and then more globally putting us on the map, and clearly that has a part to play in the visitor economy. So next slide, please. I think it's always just important when I talk to people at the Commonwealth Games just to reflect on some of the numbers, because people don't often think about the Commonwealth in its fullest sense, and you know, it's between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 people on the planet live in a Commonwealth country. All 72 of the Commonwealth countries are coming to Birmingham in less than 50 days' time now, and sort of at the practical level, that's 6,500 athletes and officials for 11 days of sport. You can see, you know, 19 sports, including 8 para sports, was an integrated programme. So unlike the Olympics, we sort of don't do 2 separate events; it's all in one event. And the feedback we get is that that's much more enjoyable experience for all the athletes. And of the people, the 2.5 billion people that live in Commonwealth countries, we expect 1.5 billion people to see some of this event on television this summer, and clearly that plays very much in putting this place on the map. In addition to the sport, there is a cultural festival, and I hope you've seen some of that. There was, for those of you that are around Birmingham city centre, we did a big unveil yesterday of a piece of art in Victoria Square, which has caught a lot of comments looking at my social media this morning, by Hugh Locke, and it's a really spectacular piece of work around the Victoria statue in the square. But actually, that's just one of many hundreds of sort of parts of the cultural festival. The intention of the cultural festival, as Martin Green told me only last night, is to reach 2.5 million people, which is more people than would actually come to the Games. So it is a huge sort of visitor attraction point, and it runs for this sort of 6 months around the Games. In a sense, the 3-to-1 cost-benefit ratio is a fact. It doesn't change anything on this call, but it sort of plays to the scale of investment that these events, these global mega events, represent for cities and regions. So whilst there is a cost to Birmingham City Council for hosting the Games, you know that for every pound that Birmingham City Council contribute towards the Games, the central government is contributing £3. You know, and that is a huge opportunity, as you know, we who are close to the Games would say, for businesses in this region. And then, of course, there is the £20 million plus business and tourism programme, which will take place during the Games, sort of centred around UK House, which is at the Exchange Building, just off Centenary Square. Next slide, please. I think you're going to hear from some of our friends in Glasgow, but just to give a sense of the last 2 iterations of the Games experience, you can read the numbers, but they really just talk about the scale of this event. In terms of you know, Glasgow and tourism, so 700,000 people travelling to the city, we would expect at least those numbers in Birmingham based on the number of tickets that are available. And if we move on to the next slide, please, I share with you the venues. So it's very much a West Midlands Games. So all but one of the venues is in the West Midlands. So the vast majority of the spectator numbers that we're about to talk about will be in and around this patch, with all the opportunities that brings. So next slide, please. So we've sold more than 1.1 million tickets for the Games now. We've been doing market research with the people who've bought the tickets, and I'll share some of that with you on this slide. The second bullet is a statement of the blindingly obvious, but I think the more interesting point is that the distribution of the spectators is not even around all of the venues. You know, there are 3 very big venues which will create you know, a huge amount of footfall. 2 of them in Birmingham, and you can see that the way the transport and the traffic will work is that actually it will be city centre out to Alexander Stadium and Edgbaston for the cricket. And there's clearly a lot of sessions if you look at the plans, there are a lot of sessions at those 2 venues. And then Coventry Stadium, the big event at Coventry Stadium that will drive the huge footfall is the rugby, and that's over 3 days over the weekend. So the amount of planning that goes into attending an event like this, when we do the research, is, you know, most people are reasonably well planned. And whilst generations will plan in different ways, it appears that most people do intend to do some form of planning, which is helpful for us in terms of understanding what it is they're going to do when they arrive and how they're going to get here. which is quite helpful. Interestingly, for anyone in the hospitality industry, more than half the ticket holders today are coming from outside the region. So that involves journeys, that involves being away from home for a longer period of time, and therefore hospitality opportunities. 2 in 3 just going to visit for the day, but clearly that leaves 1 in 3 where there are sort of wider hospitality and visitor opportunities. Next slide, please. We just wanted to flag to everybody that, as well as the sort of the venue-based events, there are 3 events flagged there that have road elements to them. So the marathon, which finishes in Victoria Square on Saturday the 30th, the road race based out of Warwick on the 7th, and the cycling time trial based in Wolverhampton. In addition, of course, for anyone who's based around the Sutton Coldfield area, the triathlon takes place on Friday the 29th, largely around Sutton Park. So again, that's another event where there is effectively free ticketing around the course, similar to these. So you will see footfall around those venues and routes. If you want full details of the routes, they are on our website. If you see in the top right hand corner that little logo that is Get Set for the Games, there is a section on the Birmingham 2022 website entitled Get Set for the Games, and you'll find that kind of detail in there for those that you need to know a little bit more about where are people likely to be and when. Next slide, please. In addition to sport and cultural festival, there are live sites. You'll be probably very familiar with these from other big events that take place around the country, but effectively, if you're not at an event, doesn't mean you're not part of the games and you can't enjoy it. So there are 2 city centre live sites, Victoria Square and Smithfield. In addition to that, there are 7 neighbourhood festival sites and 10 other sites around the West Midlands. And the dates for the 2 city centre sites are given to you there. And of course, we expect those to drive significant amounts of footfall. There'll be we'll be providing entertainment, but in addition to the entertainment, there'll be big screen coverage of the sport at those venues. Next slide, please. I hope you saw over the weekend that Birmingham City Council launched the details of the Queen's Baton relay in the city. The West Midlands gets the baton 11 days out from the games on the 18th. The city gets the baton 2 days out on the 27th. The details of what's going to be where are well available. If you want the sort of the 15-minute itinerary for those 2 days in Birmingham, it's on the council's website, and literally it is planned down to the nearest 15 minutes about where that baton is going to be. And clearly, we expect that to drive a lot of footfall with the sort of related activities. So those communities and streets that are accepting the baton for a period of time are all off busy organising their own events to sort of complement the baton being around their part of the city in those 2 days. So again, I'd urge you to be aware of what's going on there. Next slide, please. And as Martin would tell us, we're not all about sport. The 6-month festival, many of you will either have attended or seen the social media about the Wondrous Stories launch event we did a few weeks ago. It really was spectacular, and it was a statement of intent about both the quality and breadth of the festival. And we are pushing very hard the messages that, even if you're not interested in sport, there is so much going on around the games and the city in over these summer months, and encouraging people to come and engage in that. Martin's target is 2.5 million people to engage in that festival, and you can clearly see the opportunity in the hospitality and tourism industry with those kind of numbers for this place. Next slide, please. As I've said, the Get Set for the Games is the overarching campaign that helps you plan ahead. It will be naive to say that there will be no impact from the games and we're going to run the city as business as usual during the whole of the games. There will be an impact with that many people and those many events going on, but we absolutely plan with our colleagues at Transport for West Midlands and the City Council to ensure that the city and region functions well through the games, acknowledging the numbers of people that are going to be here. And we really need sort of residents and local businesses such as yours to be well planned and understanding of what's coming, so that these things don't take us by surprise, and we are able to function well as sort of a major city during games time. Next slide, please. This is just a screen dump from Get Set for the Games. If you click on, this is what you'll find. There are sort of the obvious sort of badges at the top, and you can click in and find sort of cascade levels of detail. The travel advice is important. So next slide, please. You know, quite helpfully, our friends at TFWM have started to put maps up for, you know, what will it look like for me if I travel this route, which routes are going to be busy, both train and road. Information is available on the site now, and clearly these are expectations at this point in time, but I think they're pretty helpful to allow people to understand what things are going to look like in and around games times on which day. Next slide, please. For those of you in sort of hospitality and consumer facing businesses, these are some assets that we're about to launch, both digital and sort of sticker based assets if you're in physical premises, to allow you to sort of demonstrate that you are on board with the games and sort of able to accommodate our visitors and understand their needs around the games. So, you know, these will be freely available. Henrietta, we will sort of push them out via you as well as through our channels. And as soon as they're launched, Mark will sort of let you release to your members so that we can sort of amplify that feel around the city and the businesses that we all need to be in good form to welcome our visitors. Next slide, please. I think that was a whistle-stop tour. I'm conscious I had a lot of slides in a short period of time, but Henrietta, I guess questions whenever on the spoken.
Fantastic, thank you, David. Yes, exactly as you say. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat function, use the Q&A. I've got a few already that have sprung to mind, but thank you very much for that overview, particularly in terms of where visitors will be coming in from, the sort of sense that they will be planning in advance. And as you say, the transport impact of the games, needing to be mindful of that. And I know when we come to Anne Ledgerwood's video later, she's got some great examples from the Glasgow Games on why that's important. But before we do, speaking of the visitor economy, creating a really welcoming environment for our games guests, we have got Alicia here from the West Midlands Growth Company to talk about the Getting Games Ready programme. So Alicia, over to you.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me okay. So I'm Alicia, I'm Tourism Industry Lead at the West Midlands Growth Company. I'm in charge of this work stream, Getting Games Ready. It's an e-learning portal that will assist businesses during games time and post games time. Next slide please. Yeah, so the Getting Games Ready programme will help those working in front-facing roles, whether that's hospitality, retail, transport, to provide a warm welcome and help provide accurate information to visitors. Businesses that train 80% of their staff will be eligible for the business recognition scheme. And also to try and push the programme a bit more, we will be also adding any businesses that complete the Getting Games Ready programme. We'll have a list on our website on Visit Birmingham, and we will list your business on there, and there will be a link to your website to try and promote you as a business a bit more. Also, after an individual or a business has finished the Getting Games Ready programme, they will have a window vinyl and a badge. The window vinyl you can put on your shop window, in a taxi, and it will just say that your game's ready. And now we're in the middle of a campaign to kind of let visitors know that that they can go to a shop, for example, see the window vinyl, and they'll be able to ask for help, whether that's recommendations, directions. The programme will assist in every sort of aspect of visitor information. It's got information on the games, on the area, and on customer service as well. Next slide, please. This is just a short video to try and explain the games a bit more and to push it, the programme. Yep, so we need as much support on this as possible. So the link should actually be below this slide that says welcomewm.com, and we can send that out to everyone, but that's where you sign up. Also on this link is the partner toolkit, so you can promote the programme to other businesses or within your own business. It's got social media posts, the promotional video we've just shown, some email copy. But please, if you have any questions about it, please let me know and I will assist. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, Alicia. I think one of the nice bits about this programme is it's very mutually beneficial, isn't it? It's the sort of creating opportunities for local businesses with a bit of free customer service training, and then obviously if you're thinking about sort of reviews during games time, having staff that are really well informed about what's happening in the area, able to answer customer questions, all helps with that customer experience for your business, while also supporting that welcoming environment during the games. So thank you very much for outlining that. And if you have any questions on the detail of what that programme looks like, please do pop them in the chat. But before we come to Q&A, I've got a quick video for you from Anne Ledgerwood, who is Director of the St Enoch Centre in Glasgow, as well as Chair of their City Centre Retail Association. Was very actively involved in the 2014 Games and had some great advice for our members at some events that we ran last year. Now, Demi, over to you for the next slide, please.
It's a fabulous experience, and I wish I was doing it all over again, like you guys have got that opportunity to do. Interestingly, when I was thinking about preparing for this session, I kind of came out with three phrases. One was, it will happen, accept it. So don't go against the tide. You know that this massive event is going to come to your city, and just accept it and enjoy it and what it's going to bring to you. It will create disruption, so plan for the disruption, understand that that will be there and plan so that you can minimise that, and it will create fabulous opportunities. So again, make sure you can maximise them and really look at what the opportunities are. From our point of view, it created a great partnership working across the city. Everyone really came together collaboratively, customer service initiatives, accessibility initiatives, later opening, really working on preparing and getting the logistics side of things right, came across as great partnership working as well. And then just that feeling of once you're in the games and the buzz that it creates in the city, the amount of people that are coming in, and the preparation then just allows you to enjoy that and really reap the benefits of it when it comes to you. The key areas, the key disruption stroke logistic areas for us were the security side of things, that everyone was aware of how to secure the property, contingency plans, counter-terrorism plans, suspicious packaging, training staff, training a lot of temporary staff who come in to deal with the additional footfall coming in, the additional sales coming in, bringing in temporary staff, training them when they're training in a very different environment to what you're used to being in. So that security side was one area to really plan for. And the other side was the travel and transport side of things. So dedicated Commonwealth Games lanes, closures on the main days of the marathon, the cycle races, the time trials, road closures on those days, and trying to understand, you know, can deliveries get in? Can cash in transit get in? Can your staff get in? Customers weren't really too much of an issue because the city collaboratively provided free public transport, and the customers were there and the footfall was there. So the customer side of it didn't come back as too much of an issue, but getting your staff in time, getting your deliveries in time. We had one fast food operator who, you know, in the throes of this, and all of the food in the restaurants were doing amazing business, who had realised that they had a delivery of bread buns coming in and all the roads had closed at midnight and he couldn't get his delivery in. So just really, you know, really digging deep on the practicalities of that, and just really getting your logistics right and making sure, have you done all of those? Have you looked at the contingency plans? From our point of view, the Get Ready Glasgow team and the website that they used and the various talks that they did. What I would say is if the city's doing that, then please businesses get involved in them, because you will get the practical guidelines. And as I say, it will happen. So go along with those frameworks and make the most of it for your business. As Ian alluded to there, from the service sector and the retail sector point of view, it's not necessarily about winning the business that comes with the games. It's about preparing for when the games are there, and really upskilling your teams. And I think from the retail sector, what we were seeing was upskilling in logistics and planning, upskilling in customer experience, creativity and marketing, but not just for the games. What there really was a willingness to say, well, this is something that then becomes a game changer. So we don't just do it for the event of the games. Let's actually make this into our best self and take that forward and beyond the games and deliver for Glasgow beyond that.
Afterwards, so that you've got that to hand. In terms of questions, a quick and easy question has been asked, which is, are we going to be sharing the slides? Absolutely yes, we can share the slides after today, and a recording of today's video. And I would strongly recommend checking out the travel planning that David highlighted on the Get Set for the Games hub. It is a really useful tool for just planning in routes, because it's also worth bearing in mind your staff and their journeys to work during the games, as well as thinking about clients and customers as well. So a really useful resource there. Now, if I can get David and Alicia back up, I've got a couple of quick questions for you. So David, first up, you mentioned the Queen's Baton relay, which is another piece of exciting activity that's coming through the city. Two questions. The first is, are we expecting road closures associated with that? And then second, on the positive side, what are you seeing in terms of activity along the routes? And do you have any advice for businesses on how to tap in?
Yeah, so clearly there will be short-term road closures. You know, it passes through very quickly, so I don't think they're hugely disruptive. But you know, with runners with the Baton going down the road, the traffic is not going to be flowing freely. But the council will be working on sort of the local enforcement measures around all of that, and you know, that's why I'd urge people to understand the route and how it impacts them and their businesses. In terms of the events, well, they vary and they really reflect the diversity of the Commonwealth. And you would imagine that the city and the regional leaders have planned that sort of 11 days when the Baton's in the region to reflect all that is positive about this region and the city, and therefore you will find all sorts of different sort of community-based activity, really showing the positivity that people are still attached to the Commonwealth in the city and region.
Fantastic. I know we've been keeping an eye on the Queen's Baton relay at the Chamber, because we're based top of Five Ways, and what do you know, it's starting off with the Botanical Gardens.
It is.
They're going to be taking a team down, because that's the other side. Obviously there's the benefit in terms of football customer engagement, but also team engagement as well that comes from the games, and making people feel part of and proud of the city. Alicia, in terms of the programme, so in practice, what's it? So I've logged on, I've set up an account, I'm ready to go. What does the training actually look like? Do you want to talk us through how it works in practice?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions. So it will go through, firstly, a description of the games and then the different visitor attractions in the West Midlands. And then it will ask one question, for example, it gives you a map of where everything is. And then you look at the map and answer the question of where that event's taking place. And then there's also questions about diversity, customer service, and accommodation, and it just gives a bit of an overview really on if you get that answer wrong, it will give you like why that answer's wrong and a bit of an overview really. It should take around 2 to 3 hours to complete, but you can do it in as half an hour each day or as long as you need.
Fantastic. So it's that sort of essential information on great customer service, as well as what's happening in the region and how to direct visitors around. You mentioned that those who complete their sort of 80% of employees complete the training, they can have their business featured on a sort of portal. Do you want to share a bit more about that and where that information goes to? Who sort of sees that information?
Yes, so it's a new idea we've had to actually let more people sign up. So it's going to be on our Visit Birmingham page, and on our Visit Birmingham page there's a B 2022 section, and it will be under there saying what businesses are signed up for getting games ready, and then we'll have a list and a link to their website. So when a visitor clicks on who's ready, they can say, oh, it's such and such, and then they can click on their website and find out more about them. But also they'll have the window vinyl. So if a visitor goes into a shop, for example, and sees they've got the window vinyl that says their game's ready, then they can ask questions on directions or recommendations.
Fantastic, thank you. And David, in terms of games visitors, you mentioned that the majority are coming from outside the West Midlands. Do you have any sense on how many are international, how many are likely to be staying in the city or just visiting for a day, or is it a little bit too early to tell just yet?
International is sort of harder to judge. If you follow these things closely, most of the teams are making their announcements at the moment, and clearly one of the things that drives international football is who's picked in the team. And in a sense, it's a little bit tricky because outside the official team programs, we don't really know who's coming to the country to come to the games. We kind of have some view of the sort of addresses from which tickets are purchased, but actually a lot of it can be centralised through the teams as well. So international will not be the large, it won't be a significant factor. It will be noticeable and appreciable because of the number of athletes and friends and family of those athletes would drive a lot of football. But actually the big ticket sales push is expected to be domestic. And I included domestic, sort of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Fantastic. And is that different to previous games? I think, obviously there has been a little thing known as the COVID-19 pandemic over the last couple of years, which somewhat disrupted international travel. But is that going to be significantly different to previous games?
No, I don't think so. I think the Commonwealth Games has traditionally had less international support. It's a global tournament, but actually a lot of the spectators would typically come from the host nation, outside those that are sort of attached to teams and sort of incentivized to go support the people they know.
It's very much on that global audience piece. It's more of the TV side and sort of being beamed out into homes around the world, I suppose.
That's right.
Fantastic. And am I right in thinking the broadcast centre is going to be in Victoria Square as well?
So the technical broadcast centre is at the NEC, but the BBC. So the BBC, as the sort of the licence holding broadcaster for the UK, will take its feed from the broadcast centre at the NEC, and it will broadcast from Centenary Square. So for those of you that are in the city at the moment, you'll see a major construction going on top of the fountain again. And that actually is the ground floor is the retail store, so the merchandise store for the games, and the upper floor is the BBC studio with a nice sort of open balcony onto the sort of the city end of the square. So you will see kind of the panorama of the library and the new development in Chamberlain Square will sort of be the backdrop to the BBC's coverage of the games.
Fantastic. Now, delegates listening, what I'd be keen to hear from yourselves is whether there's any more information that you need to help with your planning, either so we can help signpost you to where it is already, or we can do some digging if there's information that's not yet available to see what we can get. So please do pop that in the chat, follow up with us afterwards, or pop it in the Q&A if you're thinking, to really get to grips with this is the key information I need, then do send that our way. But while you have a think about that, Alicia and David, I'm going to ask you both your top tip for local businesses on tapping into this visitor economy side of the games. What's that top piece of advice that you'd give for making the most of the games opportunity from that visitor economy perspective? Obviously, we know it's much broader than visitor economy. As I say, there's been opportunities around supply chain that have now pretty much come to a conclusion. So I think most of the games contracts have now been left. There's been and continue to be opportunities on employee engagement around things like Festival 2022. But on that visitor economy side, what would you recommend as your top tip for businesses on making the most out of it? David?
Well, Henrietta, you've asked me this question a number of times over the years, and I think the thing that I always come back to is you have to embrace the opportunity, because it's simply an opportunity, and it is. And I hope I've sort of convinced you, if you needed convincing, as to the scale of the opportunity. But in business, opportunities come and opportunities go, and you know, you regret missing them if you do. And therefore, to any business, I'd say, you know, plan to take advantage of the opportunity, embrace the opportunity, because it's going to be there. You know, we are on time, on budget, on track to deliver a brilliant Commonwealth Games in this city in 6 weeks' time. And therefore, you know, why wouldn't you want to get involved, really understand it, and do the best planning you can possible for your business to take advantage of the great opportunity that the Games represents?
Get involved.
I think this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity for Birmingham, and it might not ever come around again, especially for businesses that might not be up and running in 30-40 years time. So really take the opportunity to build your business and make Birmingham the best that it can be, and the West Midlands.
Fantastic, thank you both. You've provided a lot of information for our members there on, you know, how to prepare in advance, to look at what's going to be happening in terms of footfall, high traffic areas, where the road closures are going to be, planning on the logistics side, but then also planning on that visitor engagement side, you know, getting involved in getting ready for the Games programme, taking advantage of that opportunity to be showcased on Visit Birmingham and that platform there to tap into those visitors. We've had a nice comment to round us up from Tracy, saying that she can't wait at the Rotunda. They've been recording the development of the Smithfield site over the past few months. I think I'm down to see the volleyball on Smithfield, back to me personally, during the Games. So I'm personally looking forward to seeing it totally transformed for that. And I think I speak for everyone when I say now Festival 2022 has really kicked off. It's starting to build that momentum and show that real physical side of what the city's going to look like during the Games. Don't know how many attended Wondrous Stories, but if that is even a taster of what the opening and closing ceremonies are going to look like, then I think we're in for a bit of a treat this summer. As I say, though, please do keep sending your questions my way, delegates, and David and Alicia will circulate your slides and the videos as well to those attending and to some of those who couldn't make it this morning as well. But do keep sending in any questions you have, any areas where you need to find more information but you can't find it, or indeed any challenges that you may have along the way. And we'll continue to play that key role of working together to make the best possible games for local businesses. As a cheeky plug, in the coming weeks, we've got a few bits. Next week, we've got a delegation coming over from Ghana with the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce to build business-to-business links with Commonwealth markets. So local businesses have the opportunity to register through our events page to attend that and meet that delegation. And we're also going to be releasing an A to Z of Commonwealth Games. You've probably heard a few things mentioned during this call, from UK House through to the Get Set programme, Getting Games Ready. There's a lot of different programmes associated with the Games, I think ranging from the Business and Tourism programme and Club 22 at the top of the alphabet to UK House at the bottom. And we just want to make sure that everyone's as informed as possible of what's going to be taking place during the Games so that you're best able to navigate it and get involved. So watch out for that. That will be coming your way at 1 month to go as a member communication from the Chamber. That's it from me today. Alicia, David, thank you both again for your time and taking part this morning and helping keep our local business community engaged in the upcoming Commonwealth Games.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Henrietta. Thanks all.